Good evening. We're going to get started in just a few minutes, but before we do, I would like to welcome all of you who are watching us online from around the world and all of you who are here in person at our Slocum Street Auction Gallery for Second Tuesdays at Slocum. In addition to tonight's speaker, we also have on display here the highlights and the auction lots from the modern and contemporary auction and from the photography auction, which starts tomorrow morning. So for any of you who are very interested in looking, this is a particularly good sale in photography and in modern and contemporary. I would encourage you to go to ha.com and have a look at the lots before the auction starts tomorrow. I would especially direct your attention to those lots that are marked as being from the consignment or from the collection of a Fortune 500 company. I've had a lot of questions asking how these lots came about to be in this auction. And having worked with the company who asked for their name not to be used, I will tell you that these pictures, along with hundreds of others, were purchased by the company 35 years ago to decorate their corporate headquarters. Prices were very modest at that time compared to what they are today, and they were bought for decorative purposes. As the years went by, certain of the pieces in their collection became very, very valuable. All of the very best pieces from the company's collection and the most valuable pieces have been consigned to auction because the company felt that they have a responsibility to maintaining the quality of the pictures and maintaining that they weren't stolen. They worried about them being exposed to light. They worried about somebody running into them. They worried about insuring them. They worried about safeguarding these works of art that they were the temporary stewards of. And they decided that this really isn't what we're all about. We're a company that does something completely different. We bought things to decorate our hallways. We have lots of things in storage. Let's take some of the things out of storage and return to collectors who truly appreciate these most fabulous works of art from their collection. And that's why they are here in this auction, and we're very pleased to have them. For those of you who are watching us online, I'd like to thank all of you who have participated in our natural history auction in our Beverly Hills Gallery last week. It was a resounding success. And I would like to invite all of you to visit our new New York City Gallery, which is opening September 1st. At 445 Park Avenue between 56th Street and 57th Street. The Borders Books is on the northeast corner of Park and 57th. And the Chase Bank is on the southeast corner. We share a common wall with Chase. So we're on the street level on Park Avenue at 57th Street, opening the 1st of September, and we look forward to seeing all of our friends there. I would like to invite Chris Ryan to come up. Chris Ryan is going to introduce our featured speaker tonight, Rosine Russell. We are very pleased to have Rosine here to entertain us and educate us and to tell us more about this very special lady. I will turn it over now to Chris Ryan. Thank you all.
I absolutely love the art in this place. There are so many wonderful pieces, and if you had a chance to see some of the prints and photographs out front in the Rauschenberg here, it's a really great setting. And it's a little bit apropos, in as much as tonight we're here to talk about not only art, but about music and kind of the melding of the two mediums together. Before I introduce Rosine, my name is Chris Ryan. I'm the president of a nonprofit here in Dallas called the Elan International Music Festival. We've been around for 5 years, and our purpose is to provide some of the best musical masters in the orchestral instruments of violin, viola, cello, and piano, along with students from around the world that have aptitude, talent, and desire on developing the programs. And in each of your seats, there's a donor card. And the thought being that it's great to hear a speaker speak, it's great to have a wonderful night out. What can we do to make it a little bit more purposeful? And the idea with this donor card is that there are not one, but 3 different ways that you can participate in helping support the Elan International Music Festival. Clearly, happy to have anyone who's willing to donate the dollars, but with our partnership with American Airlines, you have both the ability to donate miles and also the ability to participate in the Business Extra account, which allows for points to be accrued, and all of these funds primarily go to the ability for us to bring children from around the world here into the Elan International Music Festival. So this year our program kicks off on June 12th through the 26th. We have children from Russia, from Brazil, from Mexico, from Japan, from Canada, and here in the United States that are all participating. And if given the choice, we would probably not have 45 kids. We'd probably have closer to 100 kids. It's simply the limitation of logistics and the travel expense required to bring them all in. So enough about Alon, enough about me. We're privileged to have a wonderful, what I'd like to call a Renaissance woman in our midst tonight. Rogine Russell is a multi-talented person. She is a phenomenal musician on the oboe and participates in the Dallas Opera Symphony and also the Fort Worth Symphony. She is an academician. She has a background that is about as wide and diverse as I'm sure you're going to educate us. So with that said, could you please join me in welcoming Rogine Russell?
Good evening. I'm so pleased to be here. You can just feel the vibration in this room with all this spectacular art, so I hope that you're going to enjoy every minute that you're here. And I am grateful to have this privilege to be in front of you to talk a little bit about what the nonprofit music community does here in Dallas and how it connects to the art community. Since the writings of Pythagoras, great thinkers have tried to understand why listeners enjoy music and art that makes them cry, that perhaps makes them fearful or gives them wonder. Well, for the first time in history, our scientists can now watch our brains light up, measuring the activities in various regions of the brain as subjects listen to music, or as they play music, or they paint, or they watch, or they look at art. And clearly we can see that music and the arts reach inside us where other stimuli can't. For those of us who have spent our lives answering the call of the muses, these scientific discoveries really come as no surprise. An individual painter or a sculptor will spend hours and days, months, and years alone in his or her studio, and then will emerge with the completed artistic expression in hand. Painting, for example, gives one the ability to change the color or the expression or all the different elements of painting until the artist can see a graphic representation of his imagined art. However, orchestral and chamber music, of which I'm a part of, actually is a team sport. The hours spent alone preparing for the concert allow the musician to mix the colors of the palette and hone the delivery skills. Only when all the parts are performed together, however, does our music give wings to that artistic spirit that lives within each of us. And in its flight, there's a deep-seated desire to share our discoveries. For me, that is how the organization for which I am the artistic director, the Fine Arts Chamber Players, that's how this organization was begun. Picture this. It's the summer of 1981 in Dallas. It is hot. It is dry. There's no breeze. Dallas Symphony's classical music offerings have been relegated from Fair Park's Music Hall to a tent on the parking lot of North Park Shopping Center. Fort Worth Symphony and Dallas Opera are in their dormant seasons. There's no Winspear Opera House, no Wiley Theater, no Nasher Sculpture Center, no Dallas Museum of Art, no Meyerson in downtown Dallas. Upon this empty canvas, two musicians begin an outdoor summer chamber music series. I was one of these lucky people. We went to Harry Parker, who was then the director of the Dallas Museum of Fine Arts in Fair Park, and convinced him that a free chamber music series would be just the thing to bring people into the Dallas Museum of Fine Arts on Sunday afternoons in hot July. Well, this series immediately attracted enormous crowds. All the guards at the museum were really quite nervous because we had so many people backed up in all the galleries to hear the music. And that was just the beginning. 30 years later, this festival, which we call basically Beethoven, named after from the comic strip, the Peanuts comic strip, because we knew so many people would know Beethoven through that. It is a music festival that features the musicians from the Dallas Symphony, Dallas Opera, and other performing arts organizations doing free chamber music concerts. And now, 30 years later, we have 7 concerts at the Dallas Museum of Art. When they moved to downtown Dallas, they dropped Fine Arts out of their name and just became Dallas Museum of Art. We retained that, so we still have the name Fine Arts in our name, Fine Arts Chamber Players. But we do 7 free concerts there, October through May. And then we do 4 free, basically Beethoven concerts in Fair Park in July, and 4 youth recitals. But in addition, we do over 500 free educational programs, primarily in the Dallas public schools. Our 50 performers and teaching artists are drawn from all the local Fort Worth and Dallas symphonies, Dallas Opera Orchestra, area university faculties. All the musicians and staff are paid for their services. Every year, the Fine Arts Chamber Players has no ticket income, so we're constantly raising funds to make all these concerts free to the public. And by some miracle, we've never had a deficit, and we've never had to borrow money to pay all our bills. We've survived through the boom and bust, and Dallas is a much richer place for all the beautiful concerts that the musicians of Dallas have presented over the years. As the artistic director of this organization, I have the privilege of choosing the programming for the chamber music concerts. Although through our wonderful partnership with the Dallas Museum of Art, I'm constantly looking for ways that our music and the Dallas Museum of Art's exhibits and their own holdings can complement one another to give our audience a deeper visual and oral experience. I'd like to give you 2 examples. One, which was a few years ago, that had great meaning to me because I like the art and I love the composer. But one of these most memorable concerts was the presentation of a piece called 6 American Painters by John Harbison. Now, John Harbison is one of America's most prominent composers. His opera, The Great Gatsby, which was premiered at the Metropolitan Opera in New York, was a resounding success. 6 American Painters is written for flute, violin, viola, and cello. Mr. Harbison was inspired to write music to the paintings because, he said, quote, "I wanted to look more. It's my most undeveloped sense. I have great literary feeling, but I am less acutely visual. I hope that people will want to look at some of these pictures of these painters and see if that suggests anything oral. I know lots of painters who paint and sculpt to music. I'm trying to see if it goes the other way." So what he did is he went through multiple museums, looked at lots of works of art, and those that called out to him and gave him musical cues, he went back to his composition studio and wrote these pieces of music based on what messages he got from the art. This richly communicative music provides really a compelling walk through a gallery of these 19th and 20th century painters. He describes his creative process of feeling that he has a connection not to the individual painting, but to the spirit of the artist by looking at multiple paintings by these artists. The ones that struck me the most, because we had the performers play the music and we had slides of multiple artworks by these various painters that he profiled. And probably the one that resonated the most with me was George Caleb Bingham. The music that went along with his pictures were lyrical but mildly dissonant, and the strings kind of moved together in tandem against a really free, beautiful, flowing flute solo. And then Thomas Aiken's portraits, of course, for what he is very famous for, this musical portrait was syncopated and had a bright, kind of evoked a lively outdoor scene. Then Winslow Homer. His music brought up a bleak, windswept sea painting in music with flutter-tonguing in the flute and harmonics and muted glissandos. It really gave you a sense, if you'd never seen any of Winslow Homer's paintings, you really had a sense of the way he used light and dark contrasts and his subject matters. I thought that was a particularly striking musical version of Winslow Homer. And then the last one that he did in this series was Richard Diebenkorn's music, and his art was represented by this fairly singable melody that begins to become more and more abstract. So by the end of this piece, it's very much like a Diebenkorn work of art. The next example is something that's coming up. On February the 19th at the Dallas Museum of Art, this next February of 2011, the Dallas Museum of Art is going to feature the Gustav Stickley and the American Arts and Craft Movement exhibit. This will offer the first comprehensive examination of life and work of the recognized patriarch of the American Arts and Craft Movement. The exhibition and the accompanying catalog will explore Stickley as a business leader whose body of work, including furnishings, architectural and interior designs, and related imagery that became synonymous with the movement when it was at its height between 1880 and 1910. This exhibit's going to include more than 90 works produced by the Stickley designers and workshops, including furniture, metalwork, lighting, textiles, along with drawings and related designs. Also featured in the exhibit is a recreation of his model dining room from his 1903 Syracuse Arts and Crafts exhibition. We hope that you will all come to see that exhibition, and we'll hope that you'll come to hear our concert, because as I love Stickley's furniture. I would love to have a whole house full of Stickley furniture. And as I began to read about all these different exhibits coming to Dallas Museum of Art next year, I was particularly captivated, probably because I love his artistic expression so much. I began to look at music from that time period, and I came to realize that one of my favorite artists, Mary Cassatt, even though she spent a lot of time in France, she was an American, and she was really producing a lot of her art during that time period, that sort of 1880 to 1910, which was the height of the American Arts and Crafts movement. So then I began to find out, well, Mary Cassatt's beautiful art, and how does that relate to the music of the time? Well, Dan Welcher, who has been on the faculty of the University of Texas at Austin since 1978, and was a friend of mine, had just written a new quartet for a group of 4 women who call themselves the Cassatt Quartet. And he based this piece on the art of Mary Cassatt. So I had known Dan Welcher since the 1970s, when he was trained as a pianist and bassoonist and was principal bassoon in the Louisville Orchestra, where I was an oboist at the same time. He also taught at the Aspen Music Festival, where I've been for many summers, and then moved to Texas, and so did I. So I had kind of followed his career and kept in touch with him over the years. He's written in most forms, including opera and symphony. The Dallas Symphony has played works of his, and he's received a lot of attention recently for this string quartet he recently wrote. And here is a description of how he combined the music of Mary Cassatt with the paintings of Mary Cassatt with his music. My third quartet was written for the quartet that bears the name Mary Cassatt, a pioneer female artist, American artist, who spent most of her working life in France. The piece is laid out in a 3-movement structure, with each movement based on the early, middle, and late work of Mary Cassatt, her years being 1844 to 1926. Although the movements are separate with full stop endings, The music is connected by a common scale form derived from her name, Mary Cassatt, and it makes a reoccurring theme that introduces all three movements. So he calls this Mary's theme, and it's a personality that stays intact while undergoing gradual change. The very first painting, the Bacchante, is of a young girl of Italian or Spanish origin playing a tambourine. While Cassatt was trying very hard to fit into the French Academy at the time, she painted this subject quite a bit, and they were considered sort of typical and universal. The style of the painting does not yet show Cassatt's originality, except perhaps in the details of the face. Accordingly, the music for this movement is Spanish and Italian, and moves into a kind of a fast 3/4/6/8 meter, evoking the Spanish-influenced music of Ravel and de Falla. The second painting he chose is called At the Opera. The painting shows a woman alone in a box at the opera, completely dressed, including gloves, looking through opera glasses at someone or something that is not on the stage. Across the auditorium from her, but exactly at eye level, is a gentleman with opera glasses intently watching her, although it is not he that has attracted her interest. This movement is far less conventional than the first, as the painting is less conventional. The music begins with a rapid Shostakovich-type mini-overture lasting less than a minute, based on this Mary's theme that goes throughout the piece. My conjecture is that the woman in the painting has arrived late to the opera. What happens next is kind of a collage, a kind of surrealistic overlaying of two elements. The foreground music, at first, is a direct quotation of the Soldiers' Chorus from Faust, and played by the second violin, viola, and cello. The music is played in the melody and in kind of a marching accompaniment. On top of this, the first violin hovers at a high harmonic and then descends into a slow melody, completely separate from the Gounod. It's as if the woman in the painting is hearing the opera on stage, but is not really interested in it. Then the cello joins the first violin in kind of a love duet, just the two of them at first. This music is not at all Gounod derived. It is entirely the same patterns from the Mary's theme. The music stays together, sort of a 3 against 1 until the end of the movement, and the overall feeling is sort of a opera-inspired dream. The last painting that he chooses to portray in this piece is called Young Woman in Green. This painting from Cassatt's last period is very simple. Just a figure looking sideways out of the picture. The pastel colors are beautiful yet bold, and the woman is likewise very self-assured and not in the least bit demure. It is 9 minutes long in this piece, and it's all about melody. There is no angst, no choppy rhythms, just ever-unfolding melody and harmonies. And he quotes from Debussy, because at the time, probably, this is quite a bit what Mary Cassatt was listening to during her French period. It makes perfect sense to do this musically. The several last years of Mary Cassatt's life were lived in near total blindness, and as she lost visual acuity, her work became less sharply defined, something akin to the late water lilies of Monet, who suffered similar vision loss. The idea of making this movement entirely melodic was compounded by having each of the three melodies appear twice, once in pure form and the second time in a little more diffused setting. So this string quartet number 3, which is dedicated with great affection to the Cassatt String Quartet of 4 women, whose members have dedicated themselves in large measure to furthering the contemporary repertoire for the quartet. So I invite you, this is a word picture of something that's going to be done with music and with art. So I invite you on February 19th to come to the Dallas Museum of Art to hear this beautiful concert, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's totally free to you. Although the Fine Arts Chamber Players concerts are all free, not everyone in Dallas has the time and the transportation to come and avail themselves of what we have to offer. It's the same thing of the Elan Music Festival has decided that they're going to find children who don't have the means to pay for excellent teaching and give them a music experience in the summer. Well, that's what the Fine Arts Chamber Players do, and we do this practically all year long. And often, because the arts are so important to me, I ask myself, so are they really truly necessary to our society? I guess I'm committed to the concept that the arts fuel creativity and innovation, really while educating the whole person. And that's why the Fine Arts Chamber Players have dramatically expanded its education offerings. The theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said that the test of morality of a society is what it does for its children. Each year, Fine Arts Chamber Players provides over 500 free music lessons, master classes, and educational programs for students in the Dallas Independent School District. These students who cannot afford music lessons or any kind of specialized music. Since that first hot summer of 1981, the Fine Arts Chamber Players now offer programs to schools that have over 50% of the students who are in daily government-sponsored meals. They reached about 200,000 children. We've won awards for exemplary children's programming. But the most important thing to me, that we have tried to bring children into a realm where they know that music and art is for everyone. We have tried to create not only broader audiences, but also broader participation in the arts. We have a program called Dream Collectors. It's musicians and actors. They integrate live classical music and storytelling, creative movement. They go into schools and present programs that cross language, social, and economic barriers. They have integrated the arts with subjects ranging from dyslexia to character education. This program has won the Texas Commission on the Arts exemplary programming for children in the state of Texas and other awards, and it's a really terrific program that goes into the schools. The master classes that we do are just so rewarding. We have an after-school string program at Low Elementary School, a Dallas Independent School District school that has the largest percentage of children from sub-Saharan African refugee camps. It is an area in which 25 different foreign languages are spoken in the elementary school, and there is no band or orchestra program there. As you know, if you've had any experience with stringed instruments, you can't begin the violin when you are 12 years old and expect to be very competitive. So as the suburban schools begin all their programs and all the people who take their children off to have private lessons and such at very young ages, 4 and 5, these children don't have much of a chance of competing to get into the Greater Dallas Youth Orchestra or the conservatory orchestras because they start so late. So that's one incentive we had to give these children a chance to try the violin. We sent a string quartet into this school, into the gym, where they sat and played music, and the children all gathered around. We sent a piece of paper home translated in several different languages and English, and 150 children returned the piece of paper saying they wanted to learn to play the violin. Well, we were astounded that many children had that interest. Over time, we've ended up having to make our classes a little smaller so we could really get good individual instruction, but we send teachers in Monday through Thursday, After school, we have kids who would normally be going home to empty homes and sitting down in front of the television. Instead, they're now, Monday through Thursday after school, they're playing the violin. And it is just heartwarming. I just went to their 5th grade graduation, and the violin class played for graduation. And it was just great to see how proud the parents were of these kids doing something that the parents never envisioned their children would have the opportunity to do. We also have 12 students at Booker T. Washington who can't afford private lessons, and we send a vocal teacher in. And there are 12 kids who are really interested in doing something with opera. This is our 5th year to do this program. We've had 4 students go to college and go on full opera scholarships to college. That's very thrilling to us. So why do these musicians, these pool of musicians that I work with, why are they so interested about arts in the classroom and in the community? Well, to be competitive in the global marketplace, American students are challenged to not only excel in their basic academic subjects, but become leaders in creative problem solving and innovative thinking. Do you know that companies like Texas Instruments seek out music school graduates to become employees at their companies? Why? Because musicians have great attention to detail. They know about long-term goal setting. When you first start to play the violin, it's several years before you can play around your neighbors, and they think, oh, that's a violin. Because it takes a long time. It's a long-term goal that you set. It takes a long time to establish a skill base. So arts education impacts at-risk youth by deterring delinquent behavior and truancy, strengthening these critical thinking skills, and developing attention skills, memory retrieval, all while increasing academic performance. I have 2 short examples for you. As part of the masterclass program, this low string program which we do, only 65% of the students in the school scored at grade level in math, only 54% in science, and 68% in reading. Well, since the 2 years we've had this string program there, the test scores are just now coming in. Everything has been raised by at least 15 points. We're really happy. We don't know how much the violin program has been specifically geared toward raising those test scores, but we do know that when we have violin 4 days a week, that we do know that coming to school every day means that you get to go to violin class if you come to school. It means that if you don't fight at recess, you get to go to violin class after school. If you keep your grades up, you get to go to violin class with your friends after school. The violin teacher brings you books that you can take home and keep, hardback books for yourself and your family, and you can read them to your brothers and sisters. All these things which we take for granted that these kids don't have these opportunities. Another example, since 2007, Fine Arts Chamber Players has provided a cello, music theory, and cello instruction to a young Dallas student because there's no band or orchestra and his family has no money to spend on such activities. He is very hungry to learn, to listen, to read about classical music. I encountered him when I went to do a career day. Dallas Opera called me up and said, can you take your oboe and go to career day at this elementary school? So I dressed in my long black and took my oboe and English horn and went into the library. And as I began to play music, the Dvorak New World Symphony on the English horn, this young man in the front row knew every piece. He could name the composer. He could tell me which movement it was from. He asked me what was my favorite recording of it. I was astounded in this school that had no music background there, how he would know all of this. Well, as it turns out, he had become very good friends with the counselor because he had had various issues that had landed him in the counselor's office. And she had said, let's listen to this beautiful music on the radio, as she turns on WRR while you do your homework. So he got an entire year of music appreciation from his counselor and just fell in love with classical music. He's now taking composition lessons at Southern Methodist University. He's 13 years old. He's quite a remarkable young man. And the music community, once they discovered him, just fell in love with him. Donors stepped up. They bought him a keyboard. He has a cello. He had been playing a keyboard in an old piano that was at his school, and the first time he plugged in his little electric keyboard, he sat down and played Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata and the Saint-Saëns' famous cello solo, The Swan from Carnival of the Animals. He'd never seen the actual music. He just learned it from hearing it on the radio. And we really don't know what kind of turn his life will take, but we do know he has entered adolescence with a consuming passion for music and hopefully a skill set that will help him be the first person in his family to attend college. So what do these stories tell us? They tell us that arts create community. They teach us how to connect, how to communicate with each other, and communication and connection foster compassion. And compassion helps us establish our moral code so that we value the unique contributions of each person. To me, this is the most important gift that arts education has to our society. Music has the great power to bring people together, and with so many forces in this world driving wedges between people, it's important to preserve those things that help us experience our common humanity. Thank you very much for your support of the arts. This room is just buzzing with artistic energy, and I am so grateful to be here in front of you tonight and sharing some of my ideas. I hope that you will support the arts in many ways, whether you support them by having wonderful art in your home or your business place. When I first began in arts administration long ago, I was in the very first class that Ray Nasher put together called the Dallas Business Committee for the Arts. It was a combination of art leaders and art administrators and performers. Well, I had both of those hats on, and I was in this first class. And we went around the room and told what kinds of things the arts people had to say, what they had done that was business-like. And they would say things like, well, we balanced the books this month. Or they would have some other business aspect that they had done. The people in the business community would say, we bought art for our office. Or within the gray cubicle, I bought a red sofa. So it was very interesting to see this come together. Now, the Dallas Business Committee for the Arts is the North Texas Committee for the Arts and Culture, and they have grown and widened, and there are lots of people thinking artistically within the business community and the arts community. So I thank you very much for your interest in the arts, and I hope that if you can support Elan Festival, that would be wonderful. If you have interest in Fine Arts Chamber Players, I can talk to you about that. We're so happy that you're here tonight, and thank you so much for this opportunity to share some of my ideas about music and the arts. Thank you.
Regine, thank you very much for coming tonight, and we wanted to, again, if anybody wants to leave any donations, you can leave them at the front desk or check out the website listed here, and we'll be open till 8, so please enjoy some wine, some cheese, look at the art, and once again, Regine, will you come back and play some music for us sometime? Good, we'll let everybody know about that. Thank you very much.